time to go through the papers this morning. We are joined by broadcaster and showbiz journalist Stephanie Techi and writer and columnist Emma Wolfe.
Good morning to you both.
Morning. Morning.
Do you have a lovely Boxing Day, Christmas Day?
Yeah. working.
Yes.
I was a total slob yesterday, just working through the different TV channels, seeing what was on.
Obviously, GB NEWS, what you decided to stay with.
Watching you, Ellie, and Emma Carver.
And Patrick, who also lives here at the moment. Emma, should we start with you? And on the Times, rail travel chaos.
Yeah, avoid trains for 2 weeks, passengers are being warned. So if we just needed anything to lift our spirits, road chaos, no nurses, no ambulances, strikes everywhere, everything falling apart, rubbish piling up in the streets too, I noticed this morning. Anyway, passengers have been advised to avoid basically all trains, trying to get to their mum and dad's, trying to get back from family holidays, anything. Avoid that until January the 9th. So there were no trains at all before Christmas. Then on Boxing Day again,
That's just
hit by strikes. Everything's being affected anyway by this sort of Christmas shutdown. And people can't get anywhere. People are really struggling to get around, just get around the country.
Supposedly, we might be out having one of those weather bombs or whatever in mid-January as well. And I think, Stephanie, when you add all of this up, I mean, we're going to end up sitting here reporting on a story at some point towards early Feb about the massive economic cost of all of these strikes and the weather lockdown, which we'll inevitably have when it snows as well. And we're going to be skinned.
We're just regressing as a society. I just think to myself, this country is falling apart in so many sectors. The health sector, the rail sector, jobs, cost of living crisis. And I just think, actually, we're starting 2023 not on an optimistic note at all. And I don't see how any of this stuff is going to be resolved anytime soon, because the talks keep on falling down, which means the economy is losing more money. Commuters can't get to work.
Maybe it's the time, though, for us we've hit our rock bottom.
I know, that's what I keep feeling, Patrick, that somehow we really are, this country does feel kind of broken at the moment. And really things can only get better because they can't get much worse, I hope. I mean, like you say, the government are in a position, they've sort of retrenched themselves into this position where they will not talk about money with any sort of, and fair play to them. You can't just give everybody these 15, 19% pay rises. I get that. The economy is broken, but where do we go from here? The only good thing is that we're at the sort of darkest point. We've just passed the winter solstice. We're at the darkest point. We are heading towards spring. Things are going to a bit more light. Every day there's a bit more light. 50 at the moment it's 3:56 is when things start to get dark. I'm actually watching every afternoon that there's a little bit more daylight every day, because right now a lot of people I know are really low. Everyone's got the flu. Everyone just feels a bit kind of hopeless about the UK at the moment.
Well, let's just hope that people get around the table and some agreements are made.
I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic. My lucky number is 5 in 2023. You can make a 5 out of that, 2 in the 3.
Okay, I feel that might be a bit of a push, but
I do.
When we start talking about lucky numbers, I think we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
We'll see who's laughing. We'll see who's hopefully all of us.
We need a bit of your optimism.
Positivity.
And there was some optimism in the King's speech, wasn't there, on Christmas Day? The most watched TV segment of the day, Stephanie.
King Charles was the king of festive TV. Over the weekend, we were talking about all the programmes that are available, but it seems that King Charles strikes a real chord with people at home, because he managed to draw 10.6 million viewers to watch his speech, which is the biggest viewing viewers for the annual royal broadcast for at least 20 years. And I watched his speech, and I really think King Charles got it right. He was really in tune with what the nation's going with, the problems we're going through in terms of struggling with, cost of living crisis and just the anxiety people are feeling. And it felt nice to watch that emotional side of King Charles, because, the royals have always been known for having this stiff upper lip, but actually, no, I think he's, continued good work from his mother, and he's really connecting with the nation. But I do think most people watched in to see if he was going to mention Harry and Meghan, which he didn't. He was quite calm on that one. So.
Do you think that was a wise decision by him?
Yeah, I think he doesn't need to rise to the bait. I think the royal family have had a lot of issues this year, and I think, he has to stick to the job at hand, and he can deal with all those controversial problems either behind closed doors with Harry and Meghan, or when he feels like the time is right and Christmas is not the time.
Or not at all. I think the Buckingham Palace have taken the line that actually they're not going to respond. They're certainly not going to respond publicly. I mean, you're the showbiz supremo, so I would absolutely defer to you on this. But I think that King Charles, has managed the transition really well. Really difficult year. Obviously, the death of the Queen, who everyone adored. Then Harry and Meghan, Prince Andrew, a lot of things to cope with in his sort of in-tray. And I think you're right. There was compassion. There was kind of empathy from the King about the cost of living without being too political. But also, it's really difficult when you're obviously a millionaire. You're obviously living in palaces with opulence and wealth and all of that. It is hard to connect with real people when the country's as broken as our country is. And I think he managed that. I think standing in St George's Chapel was
and that's the key point, the standing, as I was about to say. I actually thought it was a really useful device, actually, because he stood up and it was almost like he was right in front of Ian. He had the odd head inflection.
He's quite good as a public speaker. I mean, obviously he's given a million public speeches over the years, but he wasn't bad, was he? He was quite good on screen, I thought. I thought he'd be stiff, and he wasn't.
What do you think about his mention of key workers? Because that was a big conversation, wasn't it? It was whether he was showing solidarity to those working in the NHS, or was it political? Was he saying, look, these people do hard work and they deserve a pay rise?
No,
with everything going on.
But over the years, even though the monarch has to be impartial and apolitical, over the years the Queen has referenced what's going on in the country, and I think it was absolutely right. It would have been very odd not to talk about that. He didn't go into like the rights and wrongs of pay demands or strikes, but he referenced the fact that a lot of people are struggling at the moment.
Well, I think that's why I'm kind of really supportive of King Charles's monarchy, because I think he doesn't want to sweep issues underneath the carpet anymore. He's still maintaining that impartiality, but he's not going to act like issues that have been controversial in the past doesn't exist.
I think recently, and just in the last couple of weeks, really, or few weeks, there's been a huge amount of issues that the royal family have had to deal with. We've had the Harry and Meghan palaver, we had the Ngozi Fulani issue as well, lots of controversy, non-stop controversy, and some people would say as well, that was more showbiz, less royal, a lot of that was. And actually now, I just feel like maybe King Charles just restored a bit of order with that King's speech.
I think so.
But, Emma...
But the bombshell, the memoir, watch this space for January
10th.
Because that's going to be the biggie.
Can they?
Now, Emma, don't shoot the messenger. I have it here in front of me that you want to talk to me about booty.
I love this. I thought you'd pick up on that. Of course I want to talk to you about booty. Line of booty, that was the headline. I couldn't resist. Shoppers queue early for the best deals. This is those mad people that get up, and I see them every year. I don't see it, 5 in the morning, they're outside, they're queuing. I'm sure everyone will say, you shouldn't say that. Queuing outside the big department stores in Manchester, Birmingham, London, all over the country, 5 a.m. on Boxing Day morning. For the Boxing Day sales.
And are there actual genuine bargains?
Are there actual genuine bargains that you could get at, like, when they open their doors at, 6 or 7, that you couldn't get later in the day? When I've ever gone to the Boxing Day sales, you always end up with sort of just a mass of stuff and people hauling at stuff, and I just...
Well, having said that, actually, I missed out yesterday, because I'm with you on this. I think, if you're in the queue at 5 o'clock, it's a bit sad, really, I think. So I had things in my basket, so having said that, I had actually...
Online.
So I had everything in my basket ready to go, and I was like, I'll just do it at some point on Boxing Day, maybe the taxi home or something. And then I went to my basket, everything had sold out.
Oh, I see.
And it reduced in price by £100.
Because I've got things in my basket, and I'm hoping to check back in and see that they've all halved in price.
They might all be gone.
Oh, dear.
So, I learned a lesson. I should have been that.
Well, at least we weren't in a tent on Oxford Street waiting at 5 in the morning. But on a more serious note, retailers are sort of feeling, relieved, because they've had a couple of years of pandemic, really depressed retail sales. And this is going to help. I don't think sales have recovered to sort of pre-pandemic levels. People are still doing online shopping and things like that, but retailers do need to shift stuff, a lot of stuff. And obviously people are, good weather, rail chaos, people have got a lot of pent-up demand to get out there and shop.
Absolutely. Stephanie, if it's all right, we've not got long left. I'm just going to skip the other one about Boxing Day sales and go straight into your one here about the COVID data acts.
This might be some good news for some. So the UK Health Security Agency have said they will stop publishing the modelling data on coronavirus from early January. So this was the data figures that were being published weekly about the reproductive rate, which was how the transmissions were going between people during the COVID pandemic. And I think this is such a good sign that we're actually finally putting COVID to bed, because I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, I was so obsessed with all these data figures, and it was actually getting me quite frightened, because I was like, oh, the rate of transmission has gone up. But now it feels like we've actually reached this point where we're now finally living with COVID, and hopefully now the data can, be beyond the problematic stage.
I think lots of people will be very glad to see the back of that R rate. I think Simon Calder was telling me yesterday it's not an R number, it's a rate or a value, something. But yes, lots of people will be very
I'm just glad we don't have those
pleased.
slideshows anymore.
Next slide,
please.
Yeah, we're very triggered by it, aren't we? All these things you
Absolutely.
forget happen, but the R rate being one of them. Emma, Stephanie, we're out of time, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
That's fabulous. Thank you.